Hampton University Athletic Department address information updates going on to give you a firsthand look at what's going on with Hampton University Athletics. I'm Sean Roberston, and to talk about Hampton University Athletics, we got the head guy. We got the athletic director here at HU, Anthony Henderson, joining us. Thanks as always. Thank you for joining us here.
No, thank you for coming down and buying into this idea that we came up with. I thought it was important for the community to hear from us, especially going into the new year. I'm coming up on 2 years in February, so giving folks information and the transparency into the department, where we're headed right now. So appreciate you coming down and facilitating this.
My pleasure. A lot to talk about in the last 6 to 8 months here with Hampton University Athletics. I want to start with this information that has been out on social media, and you wanted to address this specifically in regarding to how the university and the NCAA have reached a negotiating settlement regarding eligibility issues. And there was some stuff on social media that was incorrect about Hampton University. I know you wanted to address that in regards to the football program specifically and how that plays a role in that.
Yeah. If our fans remember, last year we had some issues that we uncovered as I came in as the athletic director, which we self-reported to the NCAA. This is just a conclusion of that investigation, which has taken a little bit more than a year. So when that information was released, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, of course, it hit social media. You had some outlets reporting.
And of course, if it's on social media, it's true.
It's true, of course. But I think one of the things is people, when they saw probation, they thought our teams were on probation, which is not the case. So we had when you talk about negotiated resolution, we started with the NCAA and cooperated with the investigation. We self-reported. We went through and talked about what the issues were, how we were going to rectify them, and came to a resolution that we both agreed on, where we move forward from this point on. So, as you know, or most people may not know, there are 3 different levels of violations in the NCAA. So this was level 1, which is one of the most serious. However, it's level 1 mitigated, which means all the measures and things we've done to take responsibility and also fix the issues have been, in the NCAA's eyes, mitigated. We're in a good spot moving forward from this point on. So one of the things was, yes, we are on probation as a department, which means we can't have any more compliance issues, violations, any of those things for the next 3 years. We have a $30,000 fine, which also incorporates a 1% fine of the 4 sports that had the largest percentage of student athletes who participated ineligible. So there were 12 teams, 80 student athletes, 12 teams over a couple of year period. So that's the piece I think people kind of misconstrued, because I think one of the outlets that reported it was a football site. So they thought it was a football program that was on probation. So that's not the case. So as long as we do what we're supposed to do, we've increased our staffing in academics and compliance. We have 5 people in compliance now, 4 people in academics. As long as we do what we need to do from an academics and compliance and eligibility standpoint, we'll be fine over the next 3 years. But no postseason bans, no scholarship limitations, nothing that affects our on-the-field play or recruiting sanctions or anything like that. So probably about as good as it could have ended up for us. I appreciate the folks at the NCAA working with us through this, which is why it took a little bit more than almost a year to get to this conclusion. But we're glad to put it behind us. So, we'll move forward and do what we need to do moving forward.
How much did it help that you were able to find the issues? It was a self-reported issue.
That was huge.
To the NCAA.
Yeah, that was huge. So coming in, and I think a lot of people think it had to do with grades, and it had nothing to do with it. Like, our student athletes are excellent student athletes. Our department had a 3.2 last semester. A lot of them are CA honor roll. It's more of a issue with progress towards degree. For example, you have a student athlete that transfers in as a junior. They have to meet a certain benchmark as opposed. So if I'm a junior, I have to meet a certain benchmark to graduate as a marketing major. So when they come in, some of the credits don't transfer. They're not read appropriately. those type things, which are more administrative than actual grades and our students having bad grades or not doing what they need to do in the classroom. So I think that was another piece that people didn't understand. They thought it was more of our student athletes not doing what they were supposed to do. That wasn't the case either. It was more administrative than it was anything on the part of our student athletes. So finding those things when we initially got here and self-reporting helped a lot. Working with the NCAA, actually a lot of the penalties that we actually ended up in the negotiated resolution were self-imposed. So we went through with our outside counsel to figure out, were there other cases similar? What had been done in the past as far as these resolution types? Because this isn't an anomaly. It's not something that we've done and nobody else has done prior to. So we did some research on other cases. We kind of took a look at what those penalties were and proposed all of this to the NCAA. And luckily they accepted and we moved forward as far as the negotiated resolution is. But yeah, finding it early and self-reporting was a huge part to get started on the right side of this when we got started.
So we cleared up that room.
Yeah.
So all of that is taken care of, absolutely. The other big issue that has happened recently, probably within the last 3 to 4 weeks, so to speak, is this new opt-in settlement involving schools across the country that now will have the right to directly pay student athletes as opposed to the athletes getting the money from NIL collectives across the country. The most recent one was VCU deciding to opt in so they can do that. How do you think this is now going to play out involving maybe other schools in the state opting into this settlement to directly paying student athletes? And is Hampton among that mix to do that in the near future?
Those are conversations we're having. One of the things I will say about, and I'll give a shout out to our commissioner, Joey D'Antonio at the CAA. We have a weekly call with all the ADs and Joey, and this is the topic of conversation every Thursday at 1:00. And we're talking about house settlement, what he's hearing as commissioner, where things are moving. That date of April 5th is coming quickly.
It's a big day because it's right after the men's national championship, so that is huge.
So that date is coming out, maybe April 7th or whatever that date is. So no decisions have been made as far as the opting in piece. We're looking at kind of what that means as an institution and as a league together, which I really appreciate all of us ADs kind of being on the same page and having sometimes some passionate discussions about what we should do, and then updating our presidents and having those same conversations with our presidents. I mean, I think Ed said it best in that article I read in the Times-Dispatch. I think amateurism in college athletics is over. Like that piece of what college athletics used to be, can't put that genie back in the bottle at this point. So we all need to figure out, what are you and where are you going to compete? Who are you going to be associating yourself with? Because just look at our league in general. If we're going to compete in the CAA, everybody to compete is probably going to have to do the same thing. So whether that's opt-in, whether that's put in your budget, we're going to play X amount to this sport or this team, or like we're going to have some really, really passionate discussions about what that looks like as a university and as a department. But those are conversations we're having. So, like I said, I don't think anybody really knows yet until, everything's ratified with the House settlement, but we do know it's not going to look the same in April as it does right now. So,
if you could give the audience like a quick example to say Hampton opts into this settlement, we've seen a lot of different figures as to how much each program, their ceiling, I guess, would be, or their budget to pay athletes directly. Can you give us an example of how it would look for Hampton University?
Yeah, I don't really have a number. I know VCU put a number out somewhere between $4 and $5 million that they're going to add to their budget. They're kind of in a different stage than we are. They don't have FCS football, which allows them to do things a little bit different. That's huge. You don't have to worry about the football piece. They can concentrate on men's and women's basketball. When you look at kind of where we are, and it's similar to just looking at the NCAA in general, right? Like Texas is at a different level than, the MAC schools and the G5. the VCUs of the world that don't have football are at a different level than some of the other FCS schools that may have football but may compete, like Rhode Island.
Right.
And they're in the same league, but Rhode Island has football. VCU doesn't have football. So how do you
FCS football.
And they have FCS football. So how do you look at that? I don't really have a number for us yet, but it is something where we're considering what that looks like from a budgetary standpoint. What the university support's going to be. We're still going to have to go out and have to supplement that with fundraising and generating more revenue. Because at the end of the day, that money, the number for the P4 is at $22 million. That's a percentage of revenue. So they have to generate more revenue to meet that $22 million cap. We're going to have to do the same thing. Whatever the number is, we're going to have to generate more revenue to meet whatever we decide is appropriate for our programs. So once again, I think April will clear up a lot of this. And but as we look at, because, we have to budget before then. University budgets come out before then. You have to prepare for it. So we're having those conversations now at a high level.
And the other thing also, and we touched on it before we came on, the fact that, student athletes still will have scholarships. Also, the NIL collective, that still plays a part in this as well, right?
Right now, yeah. And there are conversations on, does it look the same? Do collectives go away? From a NIL standpoint, we've been able to do some things to get student athletes and also retain some student athletes from a financial standpoint. So, if they go away, we'll just adjust and try to figure out what that looks like. If they don't, we'll figure out what that new model looks like to include the collective. But I think we're at a space where we can move and be nimble and still keep up with the ever-changing landscape to make sure we're doing what we need to do.
You have a lot on your plate.
Just a little bit.
In the next few months. Speaking about what's going to be on your plate, in a roundabout way, the hiring of Michal Vick at Norfolk State as their new head football coach. And I tweeted out, I was actually doing a Hampton basketball game. I was down here to broadcast and saying they have put the entire 757 on notice. You being an AD in this 757 area, your initial thought when you heard the news that Vick was going to be the head football coach, and how will that maybe change how your coaching staff approaches student athletes in this area specifically, and I guess how it maybe change how you look at the football program here at Hampton with what's going on in Norfolk State?
Yeah, I think my first initial, so take my AD hat off, my initial thoughts when Norfolk announced, and I kind of heard some rumblings, I was happy for Mike. I was happy for him to get the opportunity. I think it's really good for HBCU football. Everybody's looking for the next Dion. In my opinion, there aren't anymore. I think he's one of one. But, if you can find something close or similar, that's not half bad.
And he's a big name.
I've had conversations, actually, a lot of people don't know this. Mike, being from the area, he was here this summer with Ty Ride's camp. So we've had conversations. And, like I said, I was happy for him to get the opportunity. A lot of people were wondering, why not Hampton? Well, we kind of had a coach. I didn't have an opening. So
and took the interim tag off?
I took the interim tag off during the season. And, Trent's been doing an awesome job. A lot of people don't even realize until I kind of break down our season. So the CAA had 4 teams that made the playoffs. We played 3 of them.
Yep.
All 3 at home. We lost to all 3 teams by a total of 11 points.
And was the only school in the CAA to do that.
Yeah. So I'm happy on kind of where our trajectory is going with football and what we're doing with our staff. Like I said, Norfolk State and Coach Vick are getting a lot of publicity, and that's going to be the kind of talk all summer. But as we talked a little bit earlier, September gets here really quick, and at that point, the media frenzy doesn't matter. The conversations about what if don't matter. You got to win football games. And I, not to sound cocky or confident, I put our program and staff up against pretty much anybody at the FCS level at this point. So, I welcome it. I'm excited about. I appreciate Melody hiring him when they actually come over here. So,
I was going to say,
from a ticket sales perspective, I appreciate the boost.
He's trying out a
probably will. Battle of the Bay will be a hard ticket to get. I'm hoping. But yeah, like I said, I'm excited for them. I hope he does well, except for one game a year, and we'll go from there. But the better he does, the better Deshaun Jackson does. I think that just provides an even brighter spotlight on HBCUs in a good way. So I'm cheering for those guys.
Have you heard anything preliminary or any preliminary discussions about that game maybe going on to a national level? Because right now it would be on Flow Football.
Sports, yeah.
Have there been maybe
there have been some people asking questions. I think it's probably going to come down to that game is, I think, game 4-ish, 4 or 5.
Late September.
Yeah, somewhere in that area. I think it'll probably
It's October's first Saturday of October.
Yeah, that is it. I think a lot's going to be determined by how both teams are doing at that time. If they're doing well and we're doing well, I think there may be some national interest. We're lucky here in the CAA that with our Flow Sports agreement, we've been fortunate when people have come in. I think the classic we played in New Jersey, NFL Network came and picked that up.
That was the
Grambling game my first year. So we have a really good deal with our Flow Sports agreement, and they're really flexible when those opportunities present themselves. They've been really open to doing that. So, if a national platform wants to come in and pick that up, we have that relationship with CBS. We just had that game here with Howard on the 28th that was on CBS. So, there could be some opportunities from a national perspective. But I think both teams have to be doing well at that point to do that.
And speaking about your team, you got a big one to open the year. You got Jackson State, who did fairly well this past season.
Was it the Black College National Champions that they're now?
Down in Atlanta. You're going to open up, I believe, in August, late August, down at Jackson.
Labor Day weekend.
Walk us through how did that come about? And continuing, I know when you first started, you really pointed out you wanted to continue the HBCU rivalries. Maybe this is not a robbery, but it's something that could start up again. How important is that for you to continue those? And also the homecoming game that's going to take place in October 25th of this month.
Yeah, I mean, those games are important just from regardless of what league we're in and where we move to, we're always going to be an HBCU. And also our rivalries, we're always going to play Norfolk State. And I said this in my press, we're always going to play Norfolk State, we're always going to play Howard. Like those two are staples in our schedule, whether it be basketball, football, what have you. The game at Jackson came from a relationship. Ashley Robinson, who's the AD there, is a really good friend of mine. He called me actually a little over a year ago. Chicago Classic had reached out to him, and they wanted Jackson to play. And they asked if he could get Hampton. And he was like, well, AD at Hampton's a friend of mine. I'll call and ask. And, so we started down that path. Unfortunately, a year later, didn't come to fruition just from some business perspectives to get that done. But Ashton and I still wanted to play. I think we've only played, Jackson State and Hampton have only played 3 times ever, the number that I saw. I thought it was really good, especially with them coming off of winning the Celebration Bowl. I've had some conversations with some folks in media, why they don't talk about Hampton more. We're still in the CAA, but we're still in HBCU. So
what do they say about that?
They kind of told me it's one of those things that's out of sight, out of mind, which I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. Because I think the league that we play in, not disparaging any other league, we're one of the toughest FCS conferences in the country.
Totally agree.
So if we can be successful in, the CAA, similar to what Eddie did in the Ohio Valley this year, I don't think they talked about Tennessee State enough.
No question.
They just won the Ohio Valley Conference in his 3rd or 4th year. I think that's pretty significant. So if we can do something similar in the CAA, whether we're playing every game against HBCUs or not, I think that's something that should be talked about in the HBCU community. So, hopefully playing Jackson, they just won a Celebration Bowl. They're the national champs. We're playing at their place. It's an opportunity for us to probably get that conversation going a little bit more, which I think is important. So,
do you think, and I'm seeing it from the outside, even though I do cover the CAA a lot with football. Do you think because you are in a PWI football conference that plays a part in Hampton maybe not getting the attention that you deserve or should be out there?
That probably plays a part in it. I don't think, let's just go. We haven't been, and I can say this as a Hampton football alum, we haven't been Hampton for quite some time now. Really since Coach Taylor left, to be honest. So I think that plays a part in it as well. You have a program that's been really successful, has won championships, and hasn't gotten back to that level. So that might be a reason as well why people aren't talking as much about you as they should be. So that's on us. We got to get back to that championship level. But I think if we win in the CAA, I don't think it really matters. If we win, like, I talk to our staff all the time, that 11 points, like that Rhode Island double overtime game, that Richmond game, you win the Villanova game, you win those 3 games, that's a totally different conversation. You're 8-4 and you might be in the playoffs. So, we'll see. I mean, like I said, we have to go out and do it. But I think if we win in this conference, I don't think it matters if it's a PWI conference or not. I think it just comes to us being successful.
Right. Well, we definitely appreciate you doing this. I was told that this is going to be a quarterly thing, so maybe we'll get together in April and figure out how basketball, and we talk about the spring sports and also that settlement, because that'll be around the corner.
Absolutely.
To come to a resolution as well with that.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Appreciate you.
As always. Anthony Henderson, Athletic Director here at Hampton University, the state of the athletic department here at Hampton University. We'll try to do this again in April, where we recap the men's and women's basketball season, look ahead to the spring, and also the big settlement and how Hampton plays a role with that. For the ADF, Anthony Henderson, I'm Sean Roberston here at Hampton University.